Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode, number 30 of the Haskincast podcast. I'm very grateful to have you here with me and listening to this. I hope that you enjoy this show. Very excited about today's guest. I know I say that every week, but why would I have somebody on the show that I'm not excited to have on the show? That doesn't make any sense. So, of course, I'm excited. My dear friend, Michael, who I've known for a few years, absolutely amazing man. When I asked him to send me the bio, he sent me, he does so many things. And we're going to mainly focus on the music, and we're going to talk about a little bit about his Sedona UFO tours. But he's the thing that he does is everything. I mean, he's an inventor, he's a writer, he does apps, he does coding. Just all this stuff. So instead of putting a bio in the description, what I'm putting is just the link to his website, because it goes over what I consider to be only a small portion of what he's done throughout his life. Just an amazing, amazing guy, creative in every aspect that he's involved in. And probably if he had more time would be involved in more things. That's the only thing I think that holds people at that creative level back is simply a matter of time. Everything that we do is a trade for time. Right now, you're listening to this podcast instead of anything else you could be doing with your ears. Maybe you're just sitting down and listening to it. Maybe you're cooking. Maybe you're driving, whatever. So you're not trading 100% of your time, but you could be listening to a different podcast or a television show or an audiobook or music, and you're choosing to listen to this, which I thank you for, of course. But when it comes to projects, and this is something that I have to look at too, with various things that I get offered from time to time, what is not necessarily the best use of my time, but what is the use that's going to make me the happiest? Certain things you do for your friends, or because someone needs help, or because you think it might help grow a relationship, and maybe the individual thing you may not enjoy as much, but you look at the higher purpose of why you might want to do that. And that's one of the things I love about Michael is he's always helping people. He's always giving of himself, really doesn't ask for much of anything in this world, except those opportunities to be able to do that for people. And that's one of the things I love about him most, aside from the huge respect I have for him as a musician, as a creative, as an inventor, and the many, many talks that we've had over the years where we would just spend an entire day talking about various things in the world and our thoughts and feelings about things and how they should be and how we could make them better and that sort of thing. He's one of those people that, I just gel really well with, especially on the creative side. We solve a lot of problems together. And I love that he, I think everybody deserves to live a comfortable life. And he's one of those people that doesn't even ask for that. He just wants to help. He just wants the opportunity. So I really wish more people had that attitude. I think that we could all work together a lot better. And, when royalties slow down, sometimes, in between projects while I'm working on the next big thing to come up, and maybe I don't have any films on the plate because I haven't really solicited out for that, or the people that I work with, they're in between projects or whatever. There are times when I have to go back out into the world and work contract jobs or whatever. And yeah, I absolutely hate doing it because it takes me away from that creative stuff that I love to do. But what's interesting about it is you get so isolated when you're an independent business owner and you're not interacting with a lot of people. You kind of forget what the world is like. And I get a small taste of it out on my walks, but really my walks are tailored to people that are on vacation. They're out to have a fun evening, or they're drunk, or they're, rushing to dinner, rushing to a show or whatever. So it's not an accurate representation of how people really are these days. That's just how those evenings are spent. And because my interactions with people are very minimal, I sometimes forget what it's like to be in there. So when I go out and do these jobs out in the world to try and keep the lights on, it's difficult for me because of the way people act toward each other. I find it very difficult that people become so territorial and their egos are more important than everybody working together to solve a problem or to make things run more smoothly or efficiently or more cost effective. It just seems that the world is more a battle of I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to push my way on you and power play so that you have to do things the way I want so I can feel better about myself as an individual, instead of saying I'm a representative for this company and my job is to help be a cog that makes the company run more smoothly, more efficiently. It creates a longevity of employment for not only myself, but for all the people that are here. And I just, that's the hard part about me going out and doing these things, is that that's not what I see. What I see is power plays and ego-driven struggles and people who just, if you don't like somebody, you just make it difficult for them. And this is exactly the opposite of what I have tried to create in the world. Is I want people to be working in harmony with each other. You can have a disagreement, you can have a difference of opinion, but it's not about you getting your way. It's about really being honest and dropping your ego and determining what is the best thing for whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it is starting your own company, whether it's working for somebody else's company, whether it's creating a product. What's the best thing for the people that are going to purchase the product? It's not about how you want to create it. It's really more about how the people are going to use it, right? So if you create something that you're just like, I want this and I want that, that's great if that's a functional thing for your end user. But if your end user isn't going to be enjoying those features, then it does absolutely no good. Like I had, at one time I had created an app for iPhone and it was a relaxation app. It was the mental sauna relaxation app. And I had put in a feature where you could take a rain sound or like a babbling brook or a stream. I think it was a stream. And you had a slider where you could decide how much volume you wanted to add in, if any, of either one of those components. Because when I listen to relaxation music or new age music, I hear people putting the ocean in there a lot, and the ocean has like a hard crescendo when the wave cracks. So when I'm trying to relax and then the wave cracks, that really kind of takes me out of it. So I didn't want to put anything in there that was harsh, which is one of my rules in mental sauna. Nothing striking. It has to be smoother or roll off that attack a little bit. So I decided that I'm going to use sounds that don't have that. But also, a lot of times people put like way too much volume or way too little volume for my own personal taste, and everybody's taste is different. So I wanted to have something that had a little more functional control. So that was something I was thinking about the end user, but also as if I were to use this myself, it would be something that I would use and I did use when I would listen to the app. And so that was more geared towards them. But I just see so much of this, I think this and I think that, instead of really focusing on what it was going to make things better for the majority of the people. And I'm hoping that we're going to get back to that. I'm hoping that we're going to get out of this stupid me and ego driven world that we live in right now. I was joking with somebody the other day. I see when I'm walking, of course, I see so many people with their head down on their phone, not even paying attention to who they're walking into, who's walking around them. If they're crossing a street, whether the light's even available for them to cross, or if somebody is, they're intersecting a crosswalk, not caring whether somebody's coming the other way. Just so self-involved. So, when we start seeing these people as ghosts, are we just going to see people with their heads down looking at a haunted invisible phone? Or, really just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of how the things that you do affect other people. And let's just try and keep a perspective of what's really important, and let's uplift each other. You don't really have to compete with anybody. Just be good at what you do, inspire, support each other. And I think we would all get where we want to be if we did more of that instead of looking at each other as competition. But that's a whole nother thing. I was going to tell you about why I almost didn't do the podcast. I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine. Actually, she's a really, really good friend, and I've only recently met her. But I was talking about the fact that, I'm not a big believer in blaming your childhood or your past for your current or future circumstances, because I think that you have the ability to master those, to overcome those, to release or forgive, and choose new directions at any point in your life. And once you become aware of what's holding you back, it's kind of your responsibility to make sure that that's not holding you back. If you haven't figured out what's holding you back, then that's the mission. And until you identify it, it's kind of hard to take responsibility for it, right? I think that's fair. So when I was very, very young, I had this conversation with my mom recently, and I don't remember the exact age, but I'm going to say like between 3 and 4. We were at a mall. It was my mom and my dad and my brother and I. And my dad went into a store, and we were waiting for him to come out. And I thought I saw him, and he headed off in a different direction. So me being the concerned miniature child that I was, I took off after him and was chasing this man through the mall, yelling, "Daddy, Daddy." And he wasn't turning around because why would he? I don't know if he had a child or not. Never met him. But he obviously did not connect. If he even heard me, he did not connect my voice to him being summoned because, again, why would he? Again, at some point, my parents found me, what was frustrating to me, and I didn't realize the defining moment at that time, was that I felt like I was screaming to somebody I loved and they couldn't hear me. And I would go on over the years to having nightmares about that, where I was on a playground and I would see somebody coming towards me who I sensed was a bad person. And I would be on, like, let's say the slide or the teeter-totter or whatever. And I couldn't move, and I'm screaming for somebody to notice, and the person is getting closer, and then I would wake up. And so over the years, I've put a lot of products out there, and some of them had done well, some of them hadn't. But I've always felt like I don't have a voice. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I realized that all of this or most of this stemmed from that 5 minutes or so out of my life when I was 3 or 4 years old, chasing some random stranger through the mall who I thought was my dad. I don't use that as an excuse for why I have or haven't done certain things. But now that I realize that was maybe the inspiration for some of my choices, that's when I decided that, yeah, I do want to do the podcast, because I thought for a long time, no one's going to care. I'm just going to talk and no one's going to listen. And I don't have a voice in this world. And I realized that I absolutely do. And it was that on top of probably several other events where maybe I had ideas that weren't listened to, or, as a child, you can't shout above the adults kind of thing. And I was pushed to the side. Those pile up on top of each other. And so that's why I almost didn't do the podcast. Now, bring me to present day, where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway. If people want to listen, great. That would be awesome. And hopefully people want to be on the show, which has obviously been great. And I look at the numbers, how many people are listening, how many people are streaming, how many people are downloading the episodes, and people are actually listening to the show. They're listening to what my guests have to say, and maybe they're more interested in the guests than me, or me than the guests. I don't know, because that kind of data you don't get. You just get, here's how many downloads you had on this day of this episode. Here's the top episodes. Here's the top 10 of the last week, the last month, the last 6 months. I haven't been doing it 6 months yet, but so you get a certain amount of data, but not the entire picture. But at the end of the day, here's something that I found was holding me back from doing something I had an interest in doing. And, if you follow that desire, you could turn that into something. So my, I guess, lesson for today is, if you have something that you want to do it. Don't find reasons to not do it. Don't find reasons to hold yourself back. If it's not something you can do right away, like, I had to pay for the hosting of the podcast. I have to pay for those episodes to be held on storage somewhere and then distributed to iTunes and Spotify and all that. And I chose Podbean on the recommendation of several friends. And so I had to pay for that up front. So if you're not in a position to be able to do that, that's okay. There's a couple things you can do. You can do 5 free episodes, or I think it's up to 5 hours of hosting time for free. And you can start with that as you're working towards paying for it. Or you can start reaching out to people and start recording episodes. Or you can, work on a plan to get that money to be able to do the hosting every year, and then work on a continual plan to raise the money for next year. But you can do something to move that dream forward. And that's my suggestion. Don't wait until you're at the end of your life and you're, in a nursing home and you've got, an IV feeding you, and looking back on that and wishing, God, what if I just would have? You know what? Do it. Just do it. If things don't go well, you have the choice of stopping or making modifications. If I want to try and reach a wider audience, I can do advertisements, or I can do different posts, or I can find new media outlets, or, have different guests on maybe that will bring a different audience. There's all kinds of things I can do. So my suggestion is do it. Just do it. Just do it. If there's something that's inspiring you, don't wait. The days are faster. The nights are faster. Life just seems to be moving at a hectic pace these days. And it's just too easy to get exhausted and caught up, and just do it. So anyway, that's my little public service announcement for today, which I had no intention of even going into, but that just came out. So there. Now, let's talk to Michael. Now, he is basically at this point, he is the band Terranomaly. He's doing the majority of the writing and all that. And it's hard to find the right words. But Terranomaly is a great band. Very good messages about what's going on in the world, about what we need to do to make it better, about the things I was saying earlier. Let's join together and elevate together instead of putting each other down, compartmentalizing, and all that. There's also, now, aside from the album Wake Up, which is a fantastic album, there's also some parody videos and things that you'll see on the YouTube channel, and I've got the links in the show notes. If you want to learn about Michael, like I said, the link to his website is in the show notes, and then every little component is on there and has a link to different things, like his one-man show that he's doing, which is fantastic. And if you're in Sedona and you have the opportunity to go see him perform, go check him out. Definitely worth it. And he's also doing nighttime UFO tours, which he does with the, I don't know what the exact term for him is. I should have asked him, but the sort of like night vision goggles and things like that, the really high-powered military-grade stuff. And just the pictures and stuff I've seen are pretty amazing. I'm hoping to get back to Sedona and go out with him one of these nights before it gets too stupid hot out there. But at least Sedona's in a higher elevation, so the nights are, I think, a little bit cooler. I usually only go up for day trips when I've been out there. But Sedona's a beautiful place to visit. Great energy, great scenery. A lot of places where you can just go and have serenity, where you're enough in the woods where you don't hear any of the city life sounds, but you really don't have to go that far to get there. There's some wonderful trails to go. There's a waterfall that I haven't been to yet, and just a great place to get away to and spend a day or two. You know, there's not much activity in the town. It's mostly like shops and things that you can see, and but obviously the UFO tour at night with Michael would be a great thing to do. And he's got some more information on that on his website. So we talk about UFOs and some of the videos he's analyzed. We talk about the one-man show. We talk about Terranomaly. We talk about Element 115, which is a whole nother amazing creation. I've had the pleasure of seeing that live more than once. And it's always fun to watch Al play on the drums, which he'll tell us all about Al. So I'm going to play a little bit of a song, which is my favorite song on Terranomaly's album, Wake Up. This one is called... And I can honestly say I really, truly enjoy every song on this album. Right now, this one is my favorite. If you ask me in 3 or 4 days, it could be a different one. It could still be this one. Who knows? I hate playing favorites because if you either enjoy something or you don't. There's some that you might enjoy more than others. But it's my tastes are just changing constantly by my mood, my emotion, and what just pops into my head or what I'm desiring to hear. But right now, in this moment, that's the one. So that's I'll play part of that track, and then we'll bring Michael on the show. So thank you for sticking around for the 30th episode. It's funny, I can't speak when I say that. And here's the song.
Even on the first day, I had determined my hue. Nobody had to touch me. I knew to cry the blues. My mama had the blues. You know my dad did too. One was a starving artist. The other didn't know what to do. No, didn't know what to do.
Okay, everybody, let's welcome Michael Macpherson to the store. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Scotty?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Did I say that right?
Macpherson.
It is
yes,
Macpherson.
Michael Macpherson. Yeah, that's a very Scottish name.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, I'm so glad that you got to come on the show today. You're an incredibly busy guy, so I'm glad I got to grab some of your time. Thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure, and it's always a pleasure speaking with you anyway, so what a lovely gesture it is for us to speak together and let people listen in.
I love that. Yes, thank you. It's I always enjoy my time with you, and I haven't seen you guys in a while. Ever since I left Arizona back in 2014, I made a trip up to see you guys before I moved to LA, and I think that was the last time.
When was Vegas?
That was when my mom got married, and that was 2012 or 13, I think.
Okay, so yeah, that's all about the same. Yeah, sure enough.
Wow, that's
years
crazy.
Quick by in a hurry, don't they?
Yes, they do. They do. But we always have a great time, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about all your amazing projects. You're currently working on. Well, you really are the majority of the band Terranomaly at this point. Would that be the right thing to say?
Yeah, well, at this point especially, yeah, it's very interesting. Jeff Bird is my music partner as far as the writing of the albums is concerned. And he has had several mini strokes and one fairly big stroke. So he's actually at a full care facility right now, trying to work his way back. He lost his legs some number of years, that 4 or 5 years ago. And so he's been learning how to walk on these legs. And then this came, it's just set him back. So I'm spending most of my time with Jeff in prayer and, just mental focus to help him recover. So right now, yeah, you say I'm really the majority. And that's probably why songs like Q and Shadow Band and the ones going to be coming soon, Fake News, are the ones that are being released, is because I'm just writing them myself.
Right. Yeah. Do you feel that you're keeping with the same musical direction that you had when you write with him, or have you kind of taken this in a little bit of your own direction just from the natural, you're not having his input?
I think one of the main reasons that Jeff and I worked so well together is that he delivered music beds to me that are things that I would have probably done.
Oh, okay.
So I think that they were very compatible. I'm not saying I would have written them exactly the way that he did, because that would kind of miss the point. Because one of the big things I liked about Jeff, like I said, was that he would submit these music beds that were odd. I just listened to them and words started forming, first of all. So that was really good. Even though he'd send it over with a name of let's say asparagus, which it wasn't, but I'm just going to use that as a word. And so you might think, well, now I'm going to, listen to the song and think of asparagus. It didn't happen. I didn't even consider the name of whatever he said. I just listened to the piece, and then something would come in, and then some syllables would start to form, and then words would start appearing, and I'd start writing them down. And that's how the whole Wake Up album pretty much got done. He would send the drum, bass, and guitar, maybe a little keyboard, whatever in there, and I would listen to that, and the song was held. I'd play a guitar track, and then do the lead track, and do the lead vocal, and stack up vocals, and send it back to him, and then he would go and mix and do on. So that's how that process worked, but it worked so well, I think, because the stuff that he delivered was like stuff that I would have made. Saved me a lot of time. I knew I was going to like it. I think of all the things that he's probably sent 25 tracks to me, and I think there may be 3 of them that I wouldn't use for anything.
Really? That's a pretty good percentage, though.
Yes, I think so.
And I think you should write a song about asparagus because it's delicious and it's good for you, and people might, it's a good reminder to eat it.
There's one inherent problem with a song called Asparagus.
It doesn't rhyme well.
Yes, of course. Spoken like a true songwriter yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, how do you, because you spend a good deal of time in your previous to Terranomaly life, writing kind of on your own. How do you like the collaboration process?
Well, when it's with Jeff, I like it a lot. When we did the Element 115 band back in the mid 2000s, the Element 115 album, I put together myself. There's one track on that album that I didn't do, that was done by us, and that was the track that was the most popular and is still probably the favorite track on the album. And Carla wrote that.
Right.
So it's like I don't do it because I think I'm the best. I did it because I was the guy around at the time who could spend the time to do it. And so when somebody like Jeff or another person would come along, don't send me any Christmas songs, Scott. But if someone else came along and wanted to collaborate, said, "Hey, I got this idea," I'd say, "Great." So sit in front of a microphone and hum it, send it to me. Because from there, I can record all the tracks,
right.
Or send whatever tracks you have. Because it doesn't matter what level. That's the advantage of playing every instrument. So then, I would love to collaborate with anybody who has the same focus and meaning for writing music. And Jeff and I are constitutionalists. So there you are.
Well, and I think that one thing I've always loved about your recordings, whether it was with Terranomaly or Element 115, is that you have captured what I would call the classic 80s rock sound, which is something that I personally love. But from a vocal standpoint, from a guitar standpoint, from a sound quality standpoint, it really seems to me like it fit perfectly in that time frame. Is that something that you specifically go after, or is that just what comes out?
It doesn't get any better than 70s, 80s rock. I just, and you can call me wrong, and I'll be fine with that. You out there listening, you might say, "Oh," but look, 70s, 80s rock, man. If that weren't true, then you wouldn't have it in all the video games and television commercials.
That's true.
You wouldn't have it when you walk into the grocery store. You wouldn't have it. I mean, it's there because people spend millions of dollars to research to find out what people are going to react to in the way that they want, and they use classic rock. So, hey, I love classic rock. I've learned to play guitar by listening to KRLA, back in, the same decade that Mr. Kennedy was killed. So, so anyways, whatever would come on the radio, I would play on my guitar. And I learned how to play every song that came on the radio, even if I didn't like it. Even if it was Carole King. I didn't care for Carole King when I was 9 years old and 10 years old. But if it came on the radio, I would play it. So I would learn to play any song. In fact, we were loyal to our radio station, by the way. We didn't have buttons and stuff to go from place to place. It was, your radio station was boss, and that's what you listened to. And so whatever came on, I learned to play. And so all that genre from really 67 on, until I started playing professionally at 15 in Phoenix in the late 70s. That was classic rock. So that's what I listened to and learned to play. But it also had elements of pop. You had Beatles. You had, like I said, Carole King. You had Carly Simon. You had Paul Simon. You had,
right.
There's a variety of stuff that was on. But I went for the stuff that made my heart beat harder, not necessarily faster,
right?
But put out more energy
with more purpose.
And that's why my latest show, if we hadn't even going to talk about my band One, I play all the classic rock stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and plus we're as any artist is, you're really a combination of everything that you've been exposed to, whether it's something you like or something you don't like. All those things become a part of who you are because you've been exposed to them. So I would say there's probably elements of Beethoven or Mozart or things that you've heard. But you're right. The focus is always what drives you the most. And I love that you said what makes your heart beat harder instead of faster, because there is a different drive to the power of that heartbeat, and as opposed to the speed of it.
Yes, Absolutely. And it has to do with the state of mind that you're in at the time, and what your thought base is. That harder heartbeat is like turning the volume of your soul up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what really did that for me? And this is going to kill at least a 30-year audience.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you the truth because I only tell the truth. So what really did that for me at one level, at a whole new level, was the Doobie Brothers when they came out.
Really?
And then what did that at a whole new level for me after that was when Van Halen came out.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what did it the most of any band ever? Boston.
Oh, yeah. I know you're a huge Boston fan, and you sing Boston very well. I've seen that live more than once, and you've got that. You can tell that you're passionate about it when you sing that song.
Oh, we used to tribute in Element 115 when after the lead singer Brad Delp decided to remove himself from planet Earth. We were doing the song "A Man I'll Never Be," but it went to a whole new level.
Yeah.
At that point, so when we did that song, boy, it really.
Yeah, that's actually always been my favorite Boston song. I mean, of course, there's other classics that we know and love, but for some reason, that song has always struck a chord with me, and I say that in the literal term, but it had that's always that's one of the ones that's always been on my mixtapes and things like that because it's just such a beautifully written song, and I think there's such an honesty in that song that we tend to see expectations that we think other people have of us, whether they're real or perceived, and we try to live up to that expectation instead of actually building the relationship and being real. It's a really strange thing, but I think a lot of people do that.
Well, that's the trouble with humans is we don't have the ability to fully telepathically communicate anymore. So there's always some level of ambiguity until you get exactly on frequency, amplitude, and phase with your person that you're communicating with. But that's pretty tough for most people to do, especially in the day of the me generations and the electronic consumption. All it's doing is pulling us further and further away from the use of our pineal gland and the abilities that we all have in our DNA, but have been told that we don't have.
And on top of that, you have that constant, self-doubt that's being pushed onto us. And that certainly adds to the let's distance ourselves from each other because I don't feel I'm good enough to be around this group of people, or I don't feel I'm good enough to be living my dream or to have this friend because they're so much better than me. And you couple that with those kind of things, being surrounded by the electronics and not using the pineal gland. It just expands that issue so much more.
Yeah, and then we'll just take this out one step further and probably then jump back where we were, and that's the fact that we're breathing, drinking, and eating fluoride poisons and other metals. Right. So how do we maximize our relationship with Creator, which is all through energy? So how do we do that when we're being discolored, energetically speaking, with all of these metals and stuff? And we're living in, if you take nanoparticles and you take a pile of nanoparticles, or not even nanoparticles, sand, and you zoom in and you zoom in, eventually you get to the point where there's more space than there is particles. And that's what our skies are like. But when you zoom out, looking at it from a fairly longer distance, 1,000 miles, say to a radiation point, like an antenna set, and that hits that particle set like a solid device. And so it's like a reflector. So although we can see it, and it looks kind of like clouds, it acts to certain frequencies like a solid reflector.
Right. And as a side note, if anyone listening has never seen one of those high-powered microscope shots of sand, take a look. It's actually amazingly beautiful and intricate. Yet I was just at Newport Beach last week, and it just looks like sand. It looks like brown crystals. It doesn't really look like anything. But when you zoom in on it to that extreme power, it's amazing. It's like a whole nother world.
It is. The micro world and the macro world are so common. As above, so below. We were talking before the show a little bit about satellites in space, and I said, yeah, it's kind of like atoms. Atoms have a concentration of something in the center. I'm not really a fan of the proton theory. I'm more of a quark and energetic ball spinning theory than solid matter at all. But there's what looks to be or acts like a solid center, and there's a bunch of space, and then there's a bunch of stuff going around real fast, making this field around the outside. And that's kind of like what Earth is like right now. Is this solid center? There's this field of satellites and stuff going on out there. It's crazy. It
is. And tying this in too, Terranomaly is a themed band. It's not just a band that puts out songs. There's a specific theme to what you write about. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, so far that has been the case, but I still leave my options open for the 7th album. The theme is about, ultimately, at the bigger picture, it's about taking control of our lives away from those that we have either given power to through inaction or action or sometimes plain stupidity, or ignorance. So what we got to put into a musical context was this concept of, okay, we want to wake people up, but that's not enough. We also want them to do something. So how do we do that? So that was about as far as that conversation went. And then the songs started coming in. Then I started writing stuff, and I wrote it in out of order than the Wake Up album was in. But when it was done, the Wake Up album had appeared in order. You got to remember, the Wake Up album, Terranomaly's debut album, was it's designed like the albums of the old in the 70s during the great music time, right? Where the album was 12-inch record, and you could open it up and you could read all about the band and the credits and lyrics and band members, and it was like all kinds of things were inside the album, but it was meant to be listened to from beginning to end. You start at track 1, side 1, and you will listen to the whole thing. You flip it over, you play side 2. Yes, back in the old days, and you got the whole concept or idea and the details. Okay, well, this is what Wake Up turned out to be. I mean, I think the first song, one of the first songs that we did was Enough is Enough. And Enough is Enough is like track 8 on the album. So it wasn't, we didn't put it together in order. It didn't start out, concept album, and we're going to call it Wake Up. And the idea is it's going to wake people up to the issues and problems that are out there and focus pretty much on that. It was not in our mind at all. But Wake Up, the title track, ended up being what is currently the best-selling track on the album, and it is the least overtly political.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think
it's a great track, though. I mean, I could see why. I think there isn't a song on the album I dislike. I think the whole thing's great, but that song in particular, I could see why that would be attracted to a higher audience. But it also sets a great tone, I think, for what the band is about.
Right. Yeah, because we're not gloom and doom. We're not death metal.
Right.
We're not, the blues by any strength of imagination. Although the opening track is Born in a Hue of Blue, but that was more about being born into a world that's already suffocating.
Right.
It's being born into a world that you already got 2 strikes against you. So the system's rigged. So how do you get through life? And it's got 3 lead guitars in it. So, I mean, it's a great song.
Well, yeah, that alone would do it. But that actually is my favorite track on the album. It is a little bit of, I don't want to say it's a downer. It's more of a realist song, I think, especially saying it that way, that you've already got the 2 strikes against you, because it really says, look, here's where things are at. It's not great, but it also has that. But there's still you still.
But
have
it
a
is
chance.
doable.
It is doable.
Yes, it is doable. That's the thing, and that's always even when I have conversations with people about deep state and exopolitics or whatever. I always keep in mind that I know, and I want them to know that we're going to make it through this. There's either 1,000 years of peace or 1,000 years of war or 1,000 years of something's coming up. I mean, everybody says, whatever. But at the end, we're still here.
Right. That's true.
And mankind goes through phases anyway.
Sure.
Through apathy, and then enslavement, and then rebellion, and then freedom, and then apathy. I mean, look at this.
Yeah. Right, because it always cycles back. There's always something new that takes over, and it's kind of it's really like a real life soap opera. Whoever is the antagonist. Is their power rises, and then people wake up, and then they overthrow them, and then somebody else comes into power, and then people wake up, and then they overthrow them, and it's just this cycle that keeps happening over and over. It's just done in different ways as the world grows through technology and awareness, and people finding their strengths, and people choosing, because it is a choice that people have to make to take control of their lives.
Yes, and if they have thought about maybe stepping out and doing something about it, but aren't sure that there's other people who know or feel the same way, listen to the Wake Up album. To find out that a whole bunch of people, because if we know, a whole lot of other people know. So you can listen to that album and definitely the great thing about CDs, okay, is you can still put lyrics in them.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to, find out more, get a CD Baby or whatever, and in the lyrics there's like eight panel insert on there or something like that. So it's lots of all the lyrics of the album are in there, and this album, because it is, I write akin, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm stepping out of line, and I know you will. If you were to compare like the kind of lyrics that I write, it's more like Rush or Yes than it is AC/DC or Bad Company or something, right? Wouldn't you agree?
I was going to say Debbie Gibson, but yeah, I think I would say that that's right, because especially if you really read Rush's lyrics, and I like Rush. For some reason, I've never really connected with them as much as I have other bands like Uriah Heep and Deep Purple, but I do like them. And when I actually watched a behind-the-scenes documentary on them last year, I was actually blown away by the true depth of intellect in not just their music, but their lyrics as well. They're very intelligently written.
Right. They have a message that they feel is important enough that they feel that they can do it in a way that is going to bring the listener up, rather than for you to say, I want to do something to you while you're not looking, and bring the audience down. That's like, no. These guys, they really have something to say. And Rush, really, there's trouble with the forest, trees, the song "The Trees." What a great metaphorical construct, and musically it's just, of course, that. Gotta love a guy who can play guitar and keyboard at the same time. You gotta love that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because that is, I mean, just playing drums and trying to sing is enough of a challenge at times. But now people memorize lyrics, and they do it, I think, almost in a more phonetic way. What do you think the difference is between people that just sing the song because they know the words, and people that really actually take the time to understand at least some interpretation of what the meaning of the song is? Like, why am I singing this song? Why am I passionate about this? Well,
firstly, I think that a lot of people can't even do that if they don't read it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If you're not a poet, you may not grasp the word, emotion, magic that you can, the things that you can say by not saying them with other words that you say. So sometimes I think that people would have a much better chance, I should say, of grabbing the meaning of the author by looking at the work, reading, and listening to them, but also reading. I think that there's I used to create, custom curriculum for K-12 education, back in the 90s. And one of the things that in our studies that we found was that writing and reading stimulates another area of the brain that listening doesn't, and vice versa.
I believe that because the different type of exposure you have to any kind of stimulus will elicit a different result. Yeah, that makes sense.
And there is for any given time a fixed corpus callosum, so you're only jumping hemispheres under certain scenarios and situations, and you have a much better chance of doing that if you're reading and listening at the same time than if you're just listening.
Well, and one of the new trends that I've started to see pop up on YouTube are lyric videos.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that has those.
No, you wouldn't know anything about that, the Terranomaly YouTube channel.
On the Wake Up album, I did 2 music videos, and the rest are lyric videos. But the whole album is up there. Right. On the Terranomaly channel, as you know. So the Wake Up song, the title track, is a video, because that one I just saw, so many pieces in my mind. And so that was pretty quick to put together. And then the other one I just had to do a video on was Don't Come For My Gun, and I Won't Shoot You.
Right. And that was hilarious. I love that.
Who says you can't be funny and make a point at the same time?
But, it's interesting because when I was writing a script a few years ago, my producer said to me, you'll connect better with serious material if you deliver it in a comedic setting. So you should really rewrite this as a comedy instead of a drama. And when I look at what you're doing, that is kind of what you're doing, because you do a lot of parody to get the message across. Is that the intent behind that? Why you choose that medium?
Absolutely. I do that so people first are already tapping their foot before they know what's going on, first of all, right? Then they're reading and kind of, going along, and then I hit them with the hammer, and then they're already in such a good mood, it doesn't knock them out. It just makes them punchy. Yeah. So, and people like that. That's why you drink alcohol, right? So, right? It's like you might as well, take something into the brain that hopefully in the future, and this is, look, seriously, I laugh. Even extraterrestrials said I have a great sense of humor. But really what it's about is getting the whole planet back on the meaning of life, which is service to others. We've all got to raise that level of service to others to raise the planet. And the only way I can think to do that is to get the thumb off of your back that's being put there by free will and people taking advantage to remove people's opportunities for greatness. So if we take control of our own lives back, as much as that can be done, then we have a better chance to achieve the things that you can't do in the current scenario. So that's why the Wake Up album is there, to identify, enough is enough. Is like, look, I talk about timing, with the chorus saying, I'm wondering if it's time to call the bluff. And so many people are at that point. So there's poignancy as well as comedy in a lot of the songs that are right, but most of the stuff that's coming out like now on the second album, which is Do Something, to follow up the Wake Up album, we only called Do Something, and that one identifies the things to do to fix the problems that we identified in the Wake Up album. So in Do Something, it's more to the point,
Well, and that's a brilliant progression. But what I see these days in my fairly minimal interaction with society, and I'm really not on social media that much. I get on, I do my promotion, I send, I check on a few people, and then I get off and go back to writing. But do you think that now is the most difficult time to get people to actually take action in the light of this not the Me Too movement, but the me generation, that we can identify a problem, but getting people to actually take action as opposed to going, yeah, somebody should do something about that. Let's make some posts on Facebook and talk about how bad things are, which will really do nothing but just get people angry. But that doesn't get them to do something and make change.
Can I quote Jack Black here?
Do it.
One great rock show can change the world.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, so it isn't a matter of is it easier or isn't it easier. But the tools, I've been doing this since forever, multimedia. The tools are now available to anyone. I'm still using a 2008 computer, Mac computer, and I'm still producing television shows with it. So you don't have to have, tens of thousands of dollars to make something, and it can be a meme. I mean, I have that website, seewhatimeme.us. There's like all kinds. You could do so much with a meme. You can't tell me that for instance, the Trump train didn't get going because of memes.
Right. That's true.
Just saying. Anything can happen if you have memes. So the right meme at the right place, or the right song in the right place, or the right rock tour at the right place. Imagine, if you will, New American Anthem, okay, track 10 on the album, New American Anthem and Last Man Standing, playing in a British, amphitheater or something. They get what the Yanks are going through. Okay, they really do. There's a lot of people watching what's going on, and you won't find it on the media, just like ours. But there's a lot of people who are knowing what's going on, and they would be all over this. But you have to bring it to them. You have to get it in front of them, and there has to be the right hook at the right time, just like fishing. Right hook at the right time to get you what you need to do. And the advantage of now over, let's say, the 70s is we have all these tools available to us to put something out right now in front of the planet.
But isn't that also a double-edged sword because because it is now so accessible, you now have a flood of it to cut through to get that message out?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's why I think there should be a class in grade school called Search Engine Logic. Because one of the reasons Jeff is as brilliant as he is, our former guitar player in Element 115s, and my son,
right.
he got a lot of his problem-solving skill by me teaching him search engine logic. So no matter what it is that he wants to find, he knows what to type into the search engine to get it probably come up in the first 10 hits.
Right.
And I think there should be, in this day of the library being replaced with the internet, there should definitely be some sort of internet management course for kids that teaches them how to find what they're looking for. And to do that, of course, you got to be able to concisely reduce the phraseology of what you're looking for into 3 words. And if you can do that, you can find it.
Right.
Everything is out. I compare the networks. How I'm always down on the networks, but the networks, you can only get the lies. On the internet, you can get all of those lies, but you can also get the truth.
You have to know how to find it or how to dig to get past all the other stuff to do it.
What to type into the search engine. And if you want something that's like controversial, don't use Google.
What would you use?
Use Bing or DuckDuckGo. I like DuckDuckGo myself. It brings without their filters, and they've admitted to it. So this is not like theory. This is fact. They make filters to remove results from people who are looking for certain things. So that's why I use like DuckDuckGo or Bing if it's on someone else's computer and they don't have it.
I like when at least companies can be honest about what they do. Like Apple has fully come out and admitted that they throttle the speed of the older phones, right, so that it's inspiring you to go buy an iPhone X.
I'm still waiting for Bill Gates to come out and admit that he stole the operating system from his neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah, you think it's by this point,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Why does this come out and tell us? Anyway.
Right. Well, and I love the message that you guys are getting out there because I do love when people are not complacent. when they're not willing to just accept things that are wrong, that actually want to make the world a better place. I have my way of doing it, obviously through music, that I'm trying to just filter all the anger and everything out of people through my mental sauna music, because we should not be, stuffed with that around us all the time. And
well, that's a needed service.
Exactly.
So you are fulfilling definitely a needed service. People need to unwind, de-stress, and I tell people, as you know, I have a UFO tour in Sedona, and I take people on UFO tour, and every, whenever it's clear night, we're out there looking at crap, and one of the things that I tell them is fear is the great stopper of all mankind.
That's right.
And the opposite of fear, or the antithesis of fear, is knowledge. So if you have knowledge, then you don't need to have the fear.
Right.
I'm not saying you won't need to take preparations against some, whatever. I mean, tornadoes coming. It's like, take preparation. Don't have to fear it.
Yeah, go in the basement.
So yeah, it's pretty simple. So if that's the way so much of people's stress is nexus to them. It's like, I can see it, therefore it's attacking me. No, you can see it, therefore it's out there, but it's not attacking you. Look around you. Look 2 feet around you. Look 4 feet around you. Look 10 feet around you.
And that goes into that same mentality I was saying earlier about like relationships, where people perceive their partner or their friend's view of them and their expectations, and then you become afraid of not living up to that. Why do we allow fear to control us so much when it's so easy to not let that happen?
I got to comment on when I learned that other people's perceptions is so much different than what your perception is. I went to a 10-year reunion. 10 years after I graduated,
right?
And there were girls there that 10 years earlier I just thought were untouchable, unreachable. They're beyond. I'll play guitar and entertain them, but I'm not going to ask them out. And I walked up to by several. I don't know, 2, 3, 4 of them. That said, "Why did you ever ask me out? I always thought you were so cute," or whatever. It's like, are you kidding me? You were a dance team or whatever. Kind of like, oh no, you should. Yeah. Like, so you never know what someone else may think of you. And the most important thing is, it shouldn't matter to a point.
Yeah.
To a degree. Okay, everything's in degrees. So it really shouldn't matter what any individual person thinks of you, aside from someone who's supplying you something that you're doing for contract, like a job or whatever.
Right.
But what should matter is, are you true to yourself? And when I get a chance to bump into kids and talk to them, most of the time I say, "So what do you want to do?" Or, "No, what makes you happy?" "Well, I like doing this." "Well, what do you think that maybe this would make you happy?" "Well, I don't know." "Well, maybe you could look into it." Yeah, it's about finding a way to guide them to happiness, because that's the whole point of us to be here. And one of the side effects of happiness is that you'll want to help others be happy. That's service to others. That's part of it.
Exactly.
So if you get a smile every day, and you can help deliver a smile to someone else every day, then you're on the right track.
And that's actually one of my daily goals, is to at least make one person smile, because no matter what else has happened in that day, I know at least one good thing has come out of it.
Amen, brother. Awesome.
Yeah. But and I can understand during those formative years, especially in junior high through high school, where you're trying to validate yourself. And if you think that people are at different levels and not realizing that we're all human beings, or at least most of us, it's understandable to want that validation and say, "I don't think I'm going to get it from this person, so I'm not going to try." As opposed
I think today's world's tougher on that track. Business fits. On today's world, it's tougher than it was when even you were a kid, let alone when I was a kid, regarding that, because there's so much more than just real people in your classroom.
Right.
Now that there's 30 million people on Facebook, whatever you want to use it, and you have to please them too.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is wrong, but that's where we're at.
Well, you have to give the perception that you're pleasing him, right? Because you don't have to tell the truth. You don't have to say who you really are. You're creating a personified version of yourself, of what you'd like to be, or your ideal life.
You mean like our Element 115 drummer?
Yes. And I was going to ask you about him, but to finish this point, it's like we present versions of ourselves that we want people to believe we are, instead of just saying, look, here's who I am. If you have ideas of how I can do things differently that would make me happier, I'm open to it. It's more the, I'm going to show you who you think I am so that you think I'm great, or who I want you to think you am so you think I'm great. And then there's those other people that are just, everything is doom and gloom, and they just want that, constant attention. And no matter what you tell them, they're never going to be happy. Right.
Yeah. There's certainly a lot of that out there, and it's unfortunate. And it's really a definition of priorities. Is what's most. I remember. Back when I was a little kid, when Vietnam was going on and stuff, there was this priority back in America at that time, okay, of God, guns, and country, or God, family, and community, or there's like this hierarchy, of God, family, country, or whatever. I mean, it was like people had those kinds of things, and there was a priority there that whoever your creator is, and it really doesn't matter what his name is, whoever that creator is, there has to be something that's higher than human.
Right.
There has to be. Even in your mind, whether there is or isn't, it can be proved or not proved, is really irrelevant. There needs to be something, at least in your mind, to let you know that there's something more important than human, because you're really not human. You're in a meat suit. Your light, that is your energy, that is what defines you at this moment. It's always changing. And when it goes back to the collective, it comes back out. It's really changed. But anyway, that's really what's important. And so how that is presented through your meat suit is what should be the priority, I think. How is that light presented? I mean, if that light's always angry, then fine. That's what you are. You're angry. But is that artificially induced because of some warped desire for attention, because you get attention when that happens? I mean, we all go through that when we're 2,
sure.
And some of us don't have to go when we're 20. But there's, that priority just needs to change. And I don't want to, I'm not going to, go all religious or anything, but it's about getting out of one's perception that they're only a evolved slime mold. Because if we evolved from slime mold, there wouldn't be any slime mold.
Well, that's true. And I think it's just getting out of those things that we let get to us day to day that really don't matter. Like I've read stories about people that have called 911 because McDonald's is out of chicken nuggets and they paid for them. It's they don't want the refund. They have to get the chicken nuggets, and they actually call 911. We got to let all this stupid little stuff that doesn't matter, learn to roll that off our back.
Yes. There was a saying when I was in school: "Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me."
That's
and
right.
And someone could say, "You're the ugliest dog-look face bitch thing," and then back in that day, that was very mean. But we had sticks and stones to break my bones, but and nobody picked up a stick or a stone and ever hurt you.
That's true.
It was just words bounced off. We had a better, I think, a better concept of reality in the 3D world, back then than now, because there's so much push on. I've got 40 likes. I got to get 5 more likes today, or I'm not worthy. Right.
I thought my friends love me. How come they don't all like my page? I've got 4,000 friends and only 150 like my page. It's not a representation of anything except some ridiculous perceived thing in our head.
And I'll admit that I get a lot of pulse, the feel of the pulse of the people through Twitter. I spend more time on Twitter than I should, and I'll admit that. I don't do Facebook at all.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But Twitter, besides, it used to be really, really tough to put a complex meaning into 128 characters. So I took it as a challenge personally,
Of course
as
you
a
would.
writer, and did what I could. Now there's 288 characters. I could practically write a biopic. But that's how I kind of get the pulse of what's going on. But I don't worry about how many users I've lost, except once in a while if someone's saying, "Hey, it looks like the censors came through," I'll go, "Yeah, I lost 8% today," or whatever. Because when the censors do, they because Terranomaly is conservative. Let's just face it. In today's meaning of the word. So I'm looking to see what the reach is. But if I lose 20 people or 30 people in a day, or only 2 people join today, or whatever, it's not like, oh, gee, I'm going to go have a margarita. No, it really, that's not what's important. I want to see the people who are following. I want to see what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they're doing, because I always want to write music that's got my message, but I also want to write it in such a way that it's going to reach people who are going to spread it to other people who may not be awakened yet.
Right.
Notice I did not use the word woke.
Right.
Won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So those who are awakened pass it to those who are coming out of REM, right? And spread the word and get it going. So I do a little bit of that kind of stuff. But really, it's, when people say, "I think this," who's with me? I will not respond. If it's "I think this" and I agree with it, I'll give it a like.
Sure. But, and looking at the numbers of, likes and things like that, it's really an irrelevant thing unless you understand what's behind it. It's like doing all these, formulas on a spreadsheet and you get the result of the number 95. Oh, it's 95.
It's even more irrelevant when you know what's going on behind it, because there's so much bot work and fake data that the companies are all being sued for having the fake data.
Right.
I mean, there's suits all over the country right now from all these majors in the social market.
But if I had 10,000 likes on my fan page on Facebook, for example, but I'm only selling, 2 or 3 albums a month, then what does that 10,000 mean? It means nothing. It doesn't correlate to anything. It's just numbers on a page. And you get all these people that want you to be a statistic, especially on Facebook. They'll like you, or they'll friend request you, and then you go, "Oh, hey, it's great to meet you." And then the next thing you get is a link to like their page. Not even a hello or anything. Just, hey, here's like this, And it's almost like in the digital world, there's very little personal connection because it's just too easy to be anonymous.
Yes, and this also rolls into when you listen to music, are you reading the lyrics?
Right.
And you said, yes, now they're starting to put lyrics. People are starting, it's funny, Element 115 had lyric videos up, I don't know how many years ago, but, people are starting to put lyric videos up now because why? It's so you can understand the message. They care enough to put lyric videos up, and they care enough for you to understand the message.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example of that because, I'm one of those people that back in the days of albums, I used to love when they came with a lyric sheet, and I would listen to the album and read every line and look at the pictures and look at, anything else they offered.
Yep.
And you can do that with the CD if you use that same high-powered microscope that you look at sand with. But one of the songs that I loved from the 80s, and I don't know if you know this song, but I recently actually dug into the lyrics and the meaning of the song, and I was very surprised at what it's about. And it's "Who's Behind the Door" by Zebra.
I don't have that one in my repertoire.
It's a wonderful song, one of my favorite songs from that age. And I did not know it was about interaction with aliens.
Huh.
Which brings me to my question of who is Al and how the hell do you pronounce his last name?
Jeff Celister, I think, something like that. I've never been really good at pronouncing it either. Al is the drummer from the band Element 115, and Al is an extraterrestrial, and he was on a planet some 35 or 40 light years away, and is basically an anthropologist, species researcher, whatever they call him, out there on his world. And he had an antenna that was kind of pointing out, and he caught some Earth rock and roll music from 40 years ago, because it's 40 light years away, right? So he was hearing, the Who and Beatles and all that kind of stuff. And he thought, wow, how awesome would it be to be a drummer in a band that plays this kind of cool music? So he sent out a beam to Earth that, of course, me, I've always got my ears out. Picked him up on a SETI program and interviewed him. He said he wanted to be the drummer. I said, you got it. So we figured out how we're going to do this, and he and I worked together to figure out how to bring him to the stage on a 12-foot plasma video wall. And a lot of people don't know this. We opened up for Alan Parsons in War at the 2007 Roswell UFO Festival.
Which is awesome.
They liked us so much, they brought us back in 2008 as a headliner for the 3-day event.
You got to love that.
And we were, this was in 2008, in July of 2008, and we live broadcasted it. We live streamed it, and we had about 1,100 watchers around the world from Russia, Australia, all over the world watching the show. And we had about 1,200 people or so there on site. So it was a pretty decent show. We dug the heck out of it.
Yeah, and getting to work with a guy like Alan Parsons, who, I don't really know if he gets the credit out in the world for what he's done, but that guy is an absolute musical genius.
You could say only 5 words is all you got to say. It's 5 words. Dark Side of the Moon.
Right. Yeah. But his solo stuff, too. Just a phenomenal artist.
Oh, true. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely true. And also getting information out years ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For things like
Eye in the
Sky and stuff of that nature. He was another deep writer.
Yeah.
And Jeff Bird, my music partner in Terranomaly, he actually went to Alan Parsons School, basically, and graduated from Alan Parsons School. And that's when I started changing all of our recordings to 88.2 and 24-bit and all that kind of stuff, because I learned that that's the best way to do it if you're going to go to 44.1. It's recorded at 88.2, that way you don't have fragments.
Right,
and
yeah.
So, there's a lot more, of course, in his course, a lot more. It's really worth it if you're going to be an engineer to take that course if you can. He only handpicks, a certain number of people to take the course, but Jeff has connection.
Yeah, apparently so, yeah. But he's also got the skills to back it up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have, taken them.
I was really impressed when he played me 4-play long time that he recorded. I said, okay, first of all, I know you play organ, but I know you don't play this. Okay, because I know that, I'm still working on 4-play, 9 years later, trying to get that down on the keyboard. It was flawless. Wow. Every note, every vote, everything. And what he did, he's a master of sampling. So he could play a note and drop it in, or in arrangements of notes and cut them and drop them in, so it sounded like it's being played live, but it really wasn't. And I just went, man, that's good.
Yeah, and there was so much of that in the 80s. When my brother was up here in, I think, August or September, we went to the Live 80s Lost concert, which was 18 bands from the 80s. And a lot of them were just like a singer and a keyboard player. Everything else was sampled, even the melody lines, even the keyboard lines, all just, you would see the keyboard player just standing there while the rest of the song is playing at parts. And I'm like,
right.
There's nothing about this live that's really that exciting, except that I never thought I'd get to see these bands play. And then you had some that were a full band,
I call that tracking as opposed to sampling. When I say sampling, what I mean is he hits a note on a guitar, records it into his computer, then cuts it and drops it on the timeline. And so he's got a riff going, this is from a Yes tune. And he can make that happen, even though he can't play that
right
on the guitar at that speed or anything else. he can play each note and then drop it in on a timeline. It takes him a long time to get stuff done, but
Yeah.
man, I could play every instrument of Boston enough to do every song of Boston except keyboards. Tom Schultz, what a master of the rock keyboard.
Yeah, I would highly agree with that. Well, how do you? So tell us a little, and to finish up on Al, for those who haven't had the chance to see it, and I'm sure you've got some stuff up on YouTube, but
Element115theband.com. That's the way to check it.
Right. This really was an amazing thing that I've never seen anyone else do in this way. It was 9 television screens in a square, and you actually did get to see Al perform in line with the band. It was in sync.
Yes.
Not the band in sync, but it was in sync with the music. And he was a character. I mean, he interacted between the songs. He had facial expressions. It was very real.
Thank you. For the time, and remember, I invented him in 2004. So, at the time, computers were only, so good available to the public that weren't being used for PBS animation. But what I did is I wrote a MIDI to animation converter in a program that was called Director. And it was a Macromedia program used for using your computer for much more than, most people would ever think of. And so I did a 3D, I used Poser, and I did a 3D full movement of Al using each stick to hit each drum and each cymbal. Okay, and then I took that and broke it up into what would be called sprites today. A set of characters that run on command. So I could make his left arm hit the snare, and then make his right arm hit the hi-hat or whatever. And once I had that done, then it's just a matter of triggering it. So I triggered it based on the MIDI file. Right. So I would massage the MIDI file because I played the drums in my studio. So I massaged the MIDI file, pulled out just what I needed, put that into a text file that I could import into Director. Director would read the text file on the fly with the time in milliseconds into the song to do each movement, and he would do that, and I would just record that in a screen capture program, and then I would actually take the 2-track mix down of that drum that I recorded and put that underneath the animation.
Right.
And that became our timing track. And I wrote another program that ran on the laptop live on stage that just played songs. And those songs were on a menu on the screen. And also, but here's the tricky part. You think that's pretty cool right there, right?
It is.
The drummer is playing in real time to the songs. But not only that, I also had a MIDI to DMX interface, and I controlled all of the PAR lighting, robotic lighting, the front spot lighting, all in the same program on the laptop with commands that got sent out at the right millisecond in every song to make the lights change. And so all we had to do was know where to stand on the stage at the right time, and the light would come on us, and we'd do our thing.
That's pretty amazing. So a completely self-automated light show as well.
Completely self-automated light show. And if that's not enough, now what would you pay? I also sent out through that MIDI bus all of the patch commands to all of our sound modification devices and keyboards. So while I never played a MIDI note on stage, all of the patch commands were changed on the fly in the song at the right time so that I could play clean guitar, be standing 15 feet away from my pedals, and at the right moment it goes to distorted guitar when a song goes into the hard part or whatever.
Oh, that's
and I would
cool.
never have to hit the pedals.
Yeah.
And if that's not enough,
for $10 more.
One more thing that we had that's just now becoming popular, I'm starting to see them more often. We had a microphone stand on the front of the stage. Now, Carl and I were the singers of the band, and we used headset microphones. So we were always free to roam the stage and entertain the audience while we're singing. But we had a microphone, a set microphone on a stand in the front of the stage hooked up to a harmonizer. And, if you've ever worked a harmonizer, you got to have a keyboard hooked up to it or whatever so that you can play the right harmony at the right time. Didn't do that. In the program that ran on that laptop, I also included the commands to the harmonizer that would change the chord on the fly in the song.
Wow.
So you just, one of us, Carla or myself, would be singing our part into our headset mic and lean into that microphone, and 3-part harmony comes out.
You really pushed that laptop.
And by the way, the first laptop that did this was a Mac 540C.
That old doorstop?
That old doorstop ran the Element 115 show. Now, then I moved it up to the 2005 17-inch so I could see what the heck is going on.
Well, that does help, yeah. But
yeah,
I'm gonna take this a step further, because not only did you have Al doing very human-like movements in the video portion, but you also had the front of the bass drum head would move if the bass drum was struck. It was a very realistic, you're not seeing somebody on stage with a physical drum kit, but you are seeing a very realistic representation of what it would be like if he was physically there with you. I mean, the kit was alive. He was alive. There was a window that you could look out of. He would take a drink in between songs. I mean, it was very, very like he was really a real entity.
Well, what I did is I used the old Felix the Cat metaphor. Felix the Cat used to have this bag that he could pull anything out of. Well, I used Al's bass drum. So he could just lean back, pull from behind his bass drum, and pull out anything.
Yeah.
He'd pull out binoculars. He'd look in the back row and wave to the kids in the back row. He'd pull out, if some girl said, "Hey, I love you, Al," he would reach down and pull out a diamond ring. and then he would like give an eyebrow twitch so that, that's his magic to get the girl.
Right.
He had a beer that he could drink. And he would, he had drum solo too.
He did. It was very good. But now with all this being so precise and having to be for the purpose of the way that you needed to create it, did it limit you at all on stage from taking more time between the songs to talk to the audience or interact, or because you were really stuck to a time frame?
Each song was a separate entity. So how it does limit you is in the song I can't extend the lead solo.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I can't take, if we're doing "I Love Rock and Roll," and we did, in the middle where it's doing the hand claps, it can only be that long. Even if everybody's into it, I cannot extend it because the song is a movie. Exactly. The drummer, anyway, is a movie. And so but in between, I could talk and joke and play Name That Riff, which of course is one of my favorite things to do with a live audience. Do a lead riff, and if they get the name of the song, I throw them a CD or a T-shirt or whatever. Right. It's like that kind of interaction is fun, and it takes us, a step beyond most of the ones that are too stuck up to do that kind of stuff. And but at the same time, the show was amazingly complex, but we could set it up ourselves, the band. We didn't need an 18-wheeler full of 7 engineers and everything, to make it all work.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I have a new show. Then I said I wasn't going to really mention it, but I am going to mention it now because it kind of took Element 115 to the next level. I've got a new show playing that great classic rock. It's called One. And I told you earlier, I do play every instrument. So what I did is I have this green screen video studio here in my house. And I videoed me playing drums. Then I videoed me playing bass. And I videoed me playing guitar and keyboards if necessary. To 50 classic rock songs that I happen to love. Mm-hmm. And then I put those all together into a single HD video, 1080p video file. And then I've got 4 65-inch screens instead of the 9 42-inch screens. It's about the same size. 4 65-inch screens that now play my whole band. Me, and me, in the background. Over at ZZ Top, it's just me and me.
Right.
Because,
there's no drummer.
And then I play up front, in front of it, with my rig, which, my guitar also plays keyboards and all that other kind of stuff on it. So I have that, and I do the lead vocals, and they do the backup vocals. And it's a whole new show called One. And you can see it at onemanoneband.com, and those are spelled out. There's no numbers no numerals in the name. onemanoneband.com. Yeah, It's fun and different. Nobody's done this that I know of, a whole show.
Right.
I mean, there's been music videos where somebody did one song, but did they really play all the instruments? I doubt it.
Right.
I actually am playing all the instruments and singing all the parts, and I think that's what makes it unique. And when people are really paying attention, there's little flaws and things that may happen. And so what I could do at the end of a set is say, okay, now who saw Handsome Rob, our cat, walk through the screen, and what song was it in? If you use the name of the song, then you get, a drink stub or whatever I want to give away. So it's like I try to make people pay attention rather than just sitting and talking so that they're enjoying the show.
Right. Yeah, because even at a concert, it's hard to get people to engage because they're still looking down at their phones. They're, talking
Right.
to each other. And as an artist, that's so hard to watch people standing there in the front row, not watching the band play.
That's one of the things that I love so much about Element 115 was that there was kids. There's always going to be a kid right up against the stage. And even if somebody wasn't really paying attention or whatever, that kid is really engaged. And I would get down there and let him hit the whammy on my guitar, while I'm playing and stuff like that to bring them to, I want to write music and do that when I grow up kind of thing. That's great because we definitely need more minstrels, poets, and stages.
Yes. Well, I recently saw, and I go to some of the shows here in Vegas whenever I can. And I went to a show recently, and of course, at the beginning of every show, they announce that they request that you turn off your cell phones. You're not allowed to take pictures or videos. And if they see you doing it, they'll come and confiscate your phone. They'll make sure you delete it, and you'll get kicked out for the rest of eternity. But of course, there's always somebody I see in the audience that's, trying to discreetly film, and you're not enjoying the show. You're not being respectful to the artists and all the people that put the production together. But to see that on stage, that's really tough.
Well, this is why I really like playing for, 2,000 and 3,000, 4,000 people or more, and the bright lights are on me so I can't see them.
Well, that's great. That's like the ostrich syndrome,
I love
right?
them, but I can't see them if they're pissing me off.
That's a good idea, yeah. Now, this is interesting, though, because you see comedians do a one-man show. You see actors do a one-man show. I see those here in Vegas from time to time. In fact, my former director, Marcus Weiss, just did one. But you don't see musicians doing them unless it's some sort of comedic, I've got 8 instruments strapped to me and I've got a cartoon horn
Right.
and a cowbell and, that sort of thing.
Right.
So this is really unique.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was trying. I'm always trying to do that. That's with Element 115, with Terranomaly, which one. I'm always trying to do something that hasn't been done.
I would say you do.
Because that's an in.
Now, the only way I could see you being able to expand that, as you were saying, like you can't extend a guitar solo or be able to do longer hand claps for I Love Rock and Roll, would be to be able to use like a live looper, but you'd have to do it for video as well, and it would have to be so precise that you don't see the jump cut.
Right? And that, as you know, because I see everything at 30 frames a second, I'm sure you do too, it's really tough. I already got to play guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards and sing good enough that the people in the audience aren't saying, oh, I can do better than that.
Right. Yeah.
I already got to do that, okay? So it's like, I don't need any more pressure.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's something you can pre-program so that you can or can choose to trigger it or not. But that's really the only thing I could see you being able to do beyond this. But of course, you have, I mean, I think I'm a fairly creative person, but compared to you, that's like, a M&M mini compared to a souffle. Like, I can't even think on the creative level.
I would slap you silly right now if you're in the room. So,
you would. That's why I'm here.
You're awesomely creative.
Well, thank you. But that's why I'm saying this from a whole state away from you, because I can. But no, and I mean, honestly, yeah, my ability to see frames per second depends on how much coffee I've had. And if I've had Carla's coffee, your wonderful wife,
right.
who I love, you guys make some amazing coffee. And if I have that, yes, I can see at running speed.
And I tell you, 30 frames. I was kind of brought up. I started doing video when video first came possible on VHS and all that kind of thing. Started editing videos, but the nature of grabbing 30 frames a second and seeing the world at 30 frames a second made it really nice because they couldn't throw a frame by on me. You know, I could always see whatever, even if it was only one frame. I'd say, look at that. Did you see that? They go, no, I didn't see that. Oh, come on. Let's rewind it. There it is. One frame, you know. So I would see that. But now if they're doing 120 frames,
Yeah.
nah, I don't have that.
I remember visiting a friend of mine in Arizona, Kevin Ty, who has a studio in Mesa, and he had just gotten one of those new 4D plasma screen TVs. And
Right.
he was watching, I think it was The Hobbit, one of the Hobbit movies. And I'm looking at this going, my brain doesn't like this because everything is sharp. So if something
Right.
is 100 feet in the background, it should be blurry. It should be in perspective to what the human eye would see. But they sharpen everything. So now it makes no sense whatsoever to my brain.
Yes. But it really makes people appreciate the artisticness of depth of field in
Yes.
photography and stuff.
That's
Right.
true.
Even if you go beyond, you know, it's like, wow, that's really cool. That's different. Yeah, because you're not seeing it on TV anymore.
Yeah, but I could see it in a photograph, but because that can really add a certain amount of depth. But that live action just doesn't work for me. I don't like it.
What amazed me was when I first saw 4K with a wheat field,
Ooh.
and every single piece of the wheat you could see blowing in the wind, no blur. It's like this is just not right.
Right. Yeah, like if you were to go out into that wheat field and stand on the edge of it, you would not
Right.
see it that way.
With your own eyes, you would not see that kind of detail. I don't care if you got 20/20.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I wanted to ask you about your Sedona tours a little bit because, I mean, well, first let me ask you this. Like, you do so many things. You've got Terranomaly, you've got your one-man show, you've got all this stuff that you do, and you're doing these tours. How do you balance your time so that you're giving a good amount of attention to each of the things that you do? Or is the one-man show kind of like it's done, I don't need to work on it, I just go out and perform it?
The one show right now is it's fixed. I've just grown my beard to do a whole nother 50 songs because the drummer has the beard.
Oh,
So I've got my beard growing right now. You can't see it on your radio, but yeah, it is. And then I do the drummers, 50 songs. Then I shave the sideburns off, and then I have the bass player with hair down, and he plays 50 songs. And then I shave more of it down, so it's more like a goatee kind of thing. And that's when the utility player plays, and he plays his song, his parts of the songs, and I put it all. So there's a process to add more songs. That's another kind of a downturn. I can't do requests that aren't on my list, and it takes a while to add more songs. But I'm going to have 100 songs here shortly. So that's
Sure.
going to be pretty cool.
yeah.
But so that's so that's all the time that I really have to. It's like chunks, really, Scott. I choose what project I'm on at the moment, and I dump most of my time on that. Now, you also know I do websites for people. I do video editing and photo analysis and video analysis for people, as seen on BBC television. So it's like there's different tasks that I do at different times. And my goal about all this is to help as many people as I possibly can. I don't make big amounts of money. I don't own anything because I found in the corporate United States you really don't anyway. So I try to keep myself down to kind of like what the Jesus theory would be. Just minimal amount of stuff for me and try and do as much for everybody else as I possibly can. So I take whatever task is immediately on my plate to help the person that needs it the most, and I do that.
That's pretty awesome.
So,
I love that.
for instance, when we're done on the phone today, I got to go over to a friend's house and put a table together for him, and then go over and make an appearance at a party that would be going on during the football game, but I don't like satanic rituals on television, so I don't watch those games. But meanwhile, I got to help people. Boom, boom, pop out, help people. Boom, boom, and always let people know that I'm available to help whatever they want. And part of what makes me able to help so many people in so many ways is I've never focused on doing just one thing. If there's something, especially if there's something new, I want to know about it. Like, you don't know this. I 3D designed and imprinting a magnetic motor.
Right.
Just there's no fuel. And so, that takes some part of my time because I have, people who have bought me parts to make that happen. So I got to make sure that they're satisfied that the fact that they bought parts is getting assembled into something so they can see the progress. And they're not paying me. They're not, getting any special permission to use any motors. I'm going to give them away to the public. I'm not going to sell them anyway.
Right.
But that's all. That's another piece of something that I do. In what I do with the tour, the great thing with the UFO tour that I'm doing here in Sedona. By the way, there is a website, a Sedona UFO tour guide, Sedona UFO tour guide.com. That takes 2 hours out of my day. So for me to take people out, set them up with the third generation night vision, show them half of the secret space program out that's flying around, and other ships that aren't theirs that are out there, and I get to talk to them during that hour about things that they need to know, things that, in my encounter with ET, yes, I did actually, for you listeners out there, I did actually have an encounter in 2001 with 3 8-foot extraterrestrials. They downloaded some information that I'm supposed to share with humanity, and that's part of why I write the music that I do. But it's also about meeting the people and planting seeds and having them go out there, research it, know it, and start spreading the word.
Exactly. And I think it's just such a diverse life that you have. And I think that's part of what probably makes it so exciting is that you're not just doing one thing all the time. But the other thing too, and I've known you for years, you really get to know somebody when you help them move. And you and I have spent a lot of time moving each other. But it's genuine. You're not trying to gain something by helping people. It's just a part of who you are. And right. Yes, you do gain by helping other people because it makes you feel good. You're helping other people, but you just do it out of the pure, genuine nature of who you are as a person. And I really wish that we could grasp on as a society to that instead of, it being this me thing all the time. Just, what can I do to help you? And that's a question I ask people a lot. And a lot of times people don't know how to answer it because no one ever asks.
Well, but the people, yeah. I mean, aren't most people harder on themselves than they are on others?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people with conscience, they're like beating themselves up and that kind of thing. So other people are beating themselves up too. So when you know that, and you know that we're all one, but we're all apart for this temporary, data gathering experiment called life, you can help other people help the planet and humanity by bringing a smile to them or raising their frequency, raising their spirits. We talk about, raising your spirits, not necessarily talking about a glass of wine here. When you become more joyful, you raise your frequency, you raise a bubble around you of energy. So when you share that and other people are sharing that, we can raise our frequency such that all these really bad people who are doing terrible things, called, human trafficking and all that kind of stuff, they would just disappear from Earth.
Right.
They would, if we could vibrate high enough, they would disappear from Earth. So I think that is possible, but it's really kind of Buddhist in its roots. For those of us in today's world, in the real, commercial capitalism, radio frequency environment, metals and fluoride in our water. And what we can do is we can get a smile every day.
Right.
And then we can help other people get a smile every day. And I'm telling you, if you can help 2 people get a smile every day, and they learn to do the same thing, then it's only a matter of time for everybody smiling.
Well, that's true because when you lift someone's attitude and their feelings, they take that to the next person they interact with, and then that person takes. I mean, it really is a ripple effect. I've experimented with that with people when I've been in like the retail world, just as a consumer, and I've seen some amazing results. I would stand and watch a clerk run a couple of sales, and they're like, hey, how you doing? Have a great day, and you can tell that it's just a line they're saying.
It's rote, yeah.
Yeah, and then I get up there and I genuinely have an interest in them. How are you doing today? This has got to be hard standing on your feet, just dealing with 100,000 people coming through your store a day.
Right.
How are you doing? And they change. You can see it physically. Yep. You can feel it. And then I'll slowly walk away and hear how they greet the next customer, and it's completely different than the one that they greeted before me. It is so easy to raise somebody's feelings. It really is.
And we can be ornery and lift our middle finger, or we can be awesome and lift both hands to help.
Right. And you can choose who you allow into your world based on that alone.
And if you do, you will find your health improving. You will find your energy improving. You'll find you want to stay up and do more stuff and be awake longer. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I have so many things I could talk to you about, but I want to wrap this up for today. And I know you're going to come back, but I do have one more question that I want to ask you in relation to what you mentioned earlier about doing analysis. So you have been, obviously you're involved in the UFO community, and you do the tours, and you see plenty of things out there. When people send me videos, hey, check this out, I want to get your opinion on it, and it's a UFO video that they found on YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, obviously if it's made with IUFO and it has the logo and it's clearly overlaid over, it's really easy to tell it's a fake. But what would you say for people that are looking at these videos and they're so real now because you can create this at home so easily? What are some key things that you can use to identify a fake?
Well, there's I look at the overall thing first. Overall, I look at the whole thing, every pixel, simultaneously. And then I get a feeling. Okay? Then I use that feeling to make me look for specific things that make me think that that's the case. Now, a lot of times what people do is they use a real video background and they superimpose with an overlay and maybe a feather effect on the object that they're superimposing. And for a lot of people, that would work. But for me, I know what edges of weird things in the sky look like. I took lots of photos of UFOs, in Phoenix when I was down there. At daytime, I got daytime photos on my website. I mean, you can see that when you zoom in on those, there is an edge, but it's a particular type of edge. And when you have things that are superimposed, that edge doesn't usually work even on an individual frame, let alone a set of frames. And a set of frames, that edging in motion is the tell-all. That's how you find, think of it as a DYUV, a delta YUV from frame to frame of given pixel and things. Real things react certain ways. And I can't even really be more specific than that. Yeah. But you take a real one, zoom in on it, look at it 3 or 4 frames forward or backwards from any given point. Look at how the edge, it's actually light around the object because it'll work that way when it's a high reflective contrast against standard sky. So you'll get these edges, and they'll kind of dance in a particular way when it's real, and when it's fake, they don't dance that way.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, it's really hard. Now, the other thing that you can do to make it look is to 3D generate the entire scene. So you got houses and trees and everything else. Now, that can be done very convincingly because it doesn't take a $100,000 Silicon Graphics Onyx to do that kind of rendering these days.
Right.
So you can grab yourself a really nice 64-bit setup even and generate really realistic framing and even have camera movement and everything. But that's why I look at the whole thing first, because somehow, just like the wheat field in 4K, I can look at something and tell that that's supposed to look like that or that just does not supposed to look like that.
Right. And then there's the other side of it, which is the does this make sense factor. And I look at,
right.
Okay.
Then there's audio. Is there anybody going, oh, wow, look at that? Or is that believable? Does it sound like a real delivery? Or is it weird music that's underneath it? If weird music's underneath it, I automatically go, okay, that's an interesting animation.
Right, yeah. Well, then there's the military battling UFO videos. And my first thought is, okay, if this really was an operation in some remote desert area of the world, which they always are, I could understand maybe not hearing about it, But looking at this video going, okay, there's only like 5 troops in this whole platoon that's battling this UFO. There's no way that anyone would have let this video out because they would have known it was one of these 5 guys that did it.
And if you want to know what military battling UFOs look like, go to the Battle of LA.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's what really happened. You know, they shoot 1,000 rounds and it blows off a very small piece of a corner. And that's it.
Yeah.
So they said they brought down ships. They did not bring down any ships. They actually fragmented a corner of the metal of one, so they got a piece of that to find out what the ship was made of. But that whole thing, I mean, they unloaded on that Battle of LA. And,
yeah.
Nowadays we actually have ships and weapons that will take them down.
Sure. But back then, I mean, that wasn't just 2,000 rounds. That was 2,000 heavy caliber rounds. That wasn't like a machine gun. That was like a cannon that they were shooting at those things. And nothing. Just a tiny scratch.
And no one slept through that. I don't care who you are. No one slept through that.
Well, there's so many witnesses to that event, whereas these other things I'm seeing, it's like, if this event really took place, how come this didn't get in the mainstream media? How come we didn't hear about it? How come, there wasn't some other leak of it other than one person that found this and put it on YouTube? It has to make sense.
I'll lay one better on you. If you want to know if it's legit, if you didn't see it on Secure Team 10, it's not legit.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I got on my website, on my Sedona UFO Tourguide.com, on that website, I've got a page called Resources. And on that page, there's a lot of really good links to good data. So if you want to know how to get real news, which you're not going to get on the networks at all, period, none, zero, then, I gave you some sources on that page that you can go find out. Jordan Sather is 27 years old. He is phenomenally educated. Amazing guy talking about stuff. So yeah, if you want to, find out some more about 9/11, Mars colony, whatever. There's a whole list of resources on there. You can go find out about books and authors and PhDs and people that talk about the same kind of stuff I do. Only some people need to have letters after the name to be believable. So
right.
Send them a letter. There you go.
And that's all going to be, all those links are going to appear in the show notes, of course. But, another thing that I use too, or a question that I ask myself on a lot of these videos is, why were you filming? It's not like you saw something and then turned your camera on. You're just randomly filming and happen to catch something. And, I take pictures and I see things from time to time when I'm doing my cloud photos that I will see something and go, oh, that's interesting. And I'll send it over to you and get your thoughts on it. But when you're doing a video and you're zooming in on places and then you're like, oh my God, what is that? Like, why were you zooming in on those places? There has to be a logical reason for the video setting in the first place. Right.
I got a feeling after I shot this, the hair stood up on my neck and I looked at it when I got home. Okay, well, that's at least a story.
Yeah.
Whatever. A friend of mine who was out there said there was a UFO. I took pictures all day. I didn't see it. So I looked closer. I mean, if there's a story, at least it can become believable. But just, and just, look, there's a UFO. Zooms in. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. And it's a shame because I would love it if more of these videos were real, because it would just change the face of the way that we view things on a more global scale. But the fact of the matter is, the majority of the things that you see out there are easily created in a home studio. That famous audio clip where they supposedly dropped that mic in Siberia down into the ground, and it was supposedly the sounds of hell. That was so brilliantly done, but I could do that in 20 minutes in my recording studio. I'm not saying that some of these things aren't real. Right. Because some of them are, but I'm saying that it's better to approach it from a cautionary standpoint and an intellectual standpoint, because it is so easy to make at home.
Well, remember that one of the main goals of Deep State is to give you disinformation so that you're at least confused.
Well, yeah, and that's not hard to do these days. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're just such a joy to talk to, and we always have these amazing conversations that could go on for hours. But I don't have any pie here right now to share with you as we usually do. But come back and see us, and in the meantime, people check out the videos. Everything from Terranomaly is available on YouTube. I'm really excited that there's more stuff coming. In Element 115, go to Sedona. It's just a wonderful place to visit. Take one of these tours. It's a couple hours out of your life, and you'll see things that just may change your view of the world.
Scotty, it's awesome. Thank you for inviting me. It's always great to talk to you. And like I said, to talk to you while people are listening, what could be better?
Wait, people are listening?
I hope.
I hope so too. Take care, Michael. Come see us again.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have Michael come back because there's so many things that we could talk about. And this is why I could spend an 8-hour or a 10-hour day with this guy. And it's just nonstop ideas and talking and conversation from the moment we start until the end. And through that conversation, coffee and pie will probably be devoured at some point. I love the coffee that he and his wife Carla make. It's I don't know what they do to it. They won't tell me, but it's amazing. So there's our 30th episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you will come back for episode 31 next week, where I will have another wonderful guest telling us about the great things that they do. And if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, want to come on the show, write me at scott@scotthaskin.com. And you can link to me and my page and all that good stuff. So take care. Have a great week. Go out and do something that you want to do. Make it happen, people. See you soon.